Ever feel like you're running on a different operating system?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone else's brain has like one app open and yours has 20.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone.
Well, today we are diving deep into the world of ADHD.
It's way more common than people think.
And trust me, this is not your typical, boring lecture.
Yeah, it's definitely more like, well, get this. Did you know that 2.5% of adults, like worldwide, are dealing with ADHD?
Wow.
That's millions of grown-ups, not just kids, trying to, navigate the world with this neurodevelopmental condition.
Okay, hold up. Neurodevelopmental condition. That sounds kind of intense. What does that even mean for someone just like living their life every day?
Okay, so imagine your brain is like a superhighway.
Okay.
For folks with ADHD, certain lanes, especially the ones that control like attention, executive function, and impulse control, those lanes might have some detours or slower traffic flow.
Okay, so it's not just about like willpower or trying harder. Like their brains are actually wired a bit differently.
Exactly. And like one of the biggest differences we see is in how their brains handle dopamine. That feel-good neurotransmitter, that awesome feeling you get when you like finally finish a project or crush a goal.
Yeah.
That's dopamine. It's like your brain giving you a high five.
I like that.
But in ADHD, that dopamine reward system, it's not as active. So it takes more effort to like stay motivated or stay focused on tasks.
That makes so much sense. It's like they're constantly searching for that same level of reward that like other people might get way more easily.
Yeah, and it can show up in so many different ways. We've all heard the stereotypes.
Right.
But ADHD, it's not one size fits all. Remember those 3 subtypes?
Yeah.
Inattentive, hyperactive, impulsive, and combined type.
Oh yeah, those that's so me moments when you're like reading those descriptions, it can be a little too real.
Right. So relatable.
Yeah.
Well, let's break those down a little bit further. Imagine the inattentive type as like having 20 tabs open in your brain's browser,
Oh, I see it.
It's not that they don't want to pay attention. It's that their brain is just like, whoa, trying to process everything at once.
And those are often the ones who get missed, especially as kids, right? Because they aren't necessarily disruptive in class. It's more of that internal struggle to like focus.
Exactly. Then you've got the hyperactive impulsive folks. Think of them like a high performance engine.
Yeah.
That's always revving, lots of energy, impulsive actions, always on the move. And this is the type that, we often see diagnosed a little bit more in young boys, I think, partly because that excess energy is like hard to miss.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so the combined type is like a little of A, little of B.
You got it. That's the most common type of ADHD that we see. It's that blend of inattentiveness and hyperactivity.
Wow. So it's not just about, fidgeting or forgetting where you put your keys. There's a lot more to unpack here. This emotional dysregulation piece is something I haven't heard much about before. What exactly does that look like in real life?
Yeah. Well, imagine feeling emotions on a much larger scale than other people do. It's like the volume knob is turned up way higher.
Wow.
For someone with ADHD, even small frustrations can trigger these like really intense feelings of anger or overwhelm or frustration. And then, on the flip side, positive emotions can be just like amplified too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you might see these bursts of enthusiasm or excitement that might seem, a little out of proportion to others.
So it's like experiencing the world in high definition all the time.
Yeah.
No wonder it takes a lot of energy to manage those intense emotions.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But it makes you wonder what causes these brain differences in the first place.
Yeah.
Is it genetics, environment, or a bit of both?
You hit the nail on the head. It's definitely a bit of both.
Okay, so explain this baking process for ADHD.
Okay.
Like, what are some of the ingredients that might be at play?
Let's start with the recipe genetics. If a parent has ADHD, their child is more likely to have it too. And twins studies really drive this home. Identical twins are far more likely to both have ADHD compared to fraternal twins.
So a family history of ADHD definitely increases the odds. But what about the environment?
Right.
What are some of those external factors that might contribute to ADHD?
Well, let's go back to that cake analogy. Imagine those crucial prenatal months and early childhood years as the oven preheating and the cake starting to bake.
Okay, I'm with you.
That's when the brain is developing really rapidly, and certain environmental exposures can really impact how things turn out.
Makes sense. So what are some of those oven mishaps we should be aware of?
One big one is exposure to substances like alcohol or cigarette smoke during pregnancy.
Oh, right.
Then, in early childhood, there's lead exposure, which can happen through contaminated water or even old paint in homes.
Wow, I had no idea.
These exposures can disrupt brain development in those key areas we talked about earlier: attention, impulse control, and emotional regulation.
Okay, that's interesting.
It highlights how important maternal health and safe environments are for developing brains.
For sure.
But remember, it's rarely just one ingredient. It's often a combination of genetic predisposition, environmental factors, and even things like premature birth that contribute to the overall picture.
It's like a perfect storm of factors that can increase the risk.
Right.
Which makes me think, with all these potential causes swirling around, why is getting an accurate diagnosis so important?
Because ADHD can be a master of disguise. It often wears the mask of other conditions like anxiety, depression, or even sleep disorders.
I see.
Someone might be trying to manage their anxiety with meditation and deep breathing, when what they really need are tools and strategies specifically designed for ADHD.
So it's not just about putting a label on it. It's about understanding the root cause and getting the right support.
Exactly.
That's good to remember.
It's like having a persistent cough. You could keep trying different cough drops, but until you see a doctor and figure out if it's allergies, a cold, or something else, you won't find the most effective solution.
That makes sense.
Similarly, getting an accurate ADHD diagnosis is the first step towards unlocking the right toolbox of strategies and support.
It's like if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right?
Right.
So with ADHD, it's like the road is constantly changing directions.
Yeah.
So once someone does have that diagnosis, then what? Like, what are the next steps?
That's where the real journey begins. And luckily, these days there are more tools and resources available than ever before. It's not about, fixing someone with ADHD, but rather how do we equip them with the tools and strategies that allow them to thrive.
I love that, equipping them to thrive. It feels so much more hopeful than just managing symptoms.
Yeah.
Speaking of tools, one thing that keeps coming up is medication. What are the different types and how do they actually work?
Yeah, so medication can be a real game changer for some individuals with ADHD, but I always, emphasize it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's about finding the right fit for each individual's unique needs and experiences.
Right, it's not like a magic pill that suddenly makes everything, okay.
Right.
It's more nuanced than that.
Exactly. Now, the articles you shared mentioned two main types of medication for ADHD: stimulants and non-stimulants. Stimulants like Ritalin and Adderall work by basically giving those sluggish dopamine and or epinephrine systems a boost.
So it's like giving those brain highways a shot of espresso or something.
I like that analogy.
Like get the traffic moving again.
Yeah, essentially by increasing those dopamine and norepinephrine levels, stimulants help to improve focus, reduce hyperactivity, and minimize those impulsive behaviors.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what about non-stimulants? Would those be prescribed?
Non-stimulants like Strattera or Intunev are often a good option for people who maybe can't tolerate the side effects of stimulants or have certain pre-existing conditions like anxiety or a history of substance use.
So it's like having different tools in the toolbox to address those unique needs.
Exactly. And speaking of tools, medication is just one piece of the puzzle. Remember those cognitive behavioral therapy techniques we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Those can be incredibly powerful for building skills and strategies to navigate life with ADHD.
Okay, remind me how those CBT strategies come into play.
So CBT is all about identifying and changing those negative thought patterns and behaviors that, might be holding someone back. Think practical skills like, improving time management, getting organized, and learning how to, regulate those intense emotions we talked about earlier.
So in a way, it's like you're learning a new operating system for your brain.
Right.
One that's more compatible with the way your brain is wired.
Exactly. And this goes beyond, just individual therapy, too. Parent training can be invaluable for families with kids who have ADHD. Parents can, learn those practical techniques to manage behavior, encourage positive routines, and create, a more supportive home environment. And then for kids who struggle socially, social skills training can equip them with the tools they need to, build healthier relationships and navigate those sometimes, complex social interactions with more confidence.
Yeah, it really does take a village, it sounds like. But even with, the best toolbox in the world, sometimes just managing ADHD can feel exhausting, I imagine.
It absolutely can. And that's why self-compassion is so vital. It's about, treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer, a friend who's struggling.
That's such a good point. So we talked about medication, therapy, support systems. What about the role of lifestyle? It seems like such a, simple place to start, But can making changes to things like sleep or exercise, can that really make a difference?
Absolutely. In fact, some might even say lifestyle changes are the foundation of ADHD management. For example, regular exercise is like a miracle drug for ADHD.
How so?
When you get your body moving, your brain throws a little dopamine party. And as we know, dopamine is a key player in focus, mood, and impulse control.
So getting that heart rate up can actually shift like how your brain is functioning.
It does.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What about other like lifestyle tweaks that people can make?
Another big one is prioritizing sleep. We all know how cranky and unfocused we feel after, a bad night's sleep. Now imagine experiencing that tenfold. For people with ADHD, sticking to a consistent sleep schedule and creating a relaxing bedtime routine can be really transformative.
It's amazing how like interconnected everything is,
Oh,
Our physical health, our mental well-being, sleep, even just like how we structure our days.
yeah.
But one thing that really struck me, like while we were researching for this episode, was a lot of what we were reading talked about the strengths that often come with ADHD. It wasn't just about the challenges and the deficits.
It's so important to highlight those strengths. People with ADHD are often, bursting with creativity. They think outside the box, and they're not afraid to take risks. These are incredible assets, especially in fields like entrepreneurship or the arts.
Like Emma, who we met earlier.
Mm-hmm.
She turned her ADHD into a superpower by, starting her own business where her creativity and, risk-taking abilities really shine.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example of how, with the right support and self-awareness, ADHD can be a source of incredible strength and resilience.
It's like instead of seeing it as a liability, you start to recognize it as just like a different operating system.
Right.
One with its own unique set of strengths and challenges.
Right. It's all about shifting our perspective from limitation to possibility.
Well, this deep dive has been really eye-opening. So for our listeners who are just starting their own journey with this, what's one thing you hope they take away from our conversation today?
I would say just remember that you're not alone. ADHD is far more common than you might think, and there's absolutely no shame in seeking help and support. And with the right knowledge, tools, and a whole lot of self-compassion, you can create a life that truly honors your unique brain wiring.
I love that. And to our listener who inspired this deep dive, we hope you feel empowered to embrace your own journey of self-discovery and explore that incredible potential that lies within.